Hi, welcome back. This is our third lesson in module number 1, which is on the parts of speech. In previous lessons under this module, I've already covered our the first 4 of our parts of speech of the 6 we're going to cover in this module, and those were the noun, the pronoun, the verb, and the adverb. Now again, we have to be able to identify the basic parts of speech first before we can actually implement them into sentences and word groups. So again, it's important for us to learn what these 6 are. Now in this particular part of module number 1, in parts of speech, I'm focusing on our last 2 parts of speech that are important for us to learn, which are the preposition and the conjunction. So part of speech number 5, again, we've already covered 1 through 4 in previous lessons under this module number 1. So I want to start with the preposition, which is part of speech number 5. Now we need to learn the basic definition of a preposition to be able to implement it later on into an actual sentence and punctuate it correctly. So a connecting word that means nothing by itself is a preposition. It shows relationships between other words, and it forms what's called a prepositional phrase. And we will talk in detail about prepositional phrases in the next module, module number 2, when we find subjects and verbs in sentences. But I will introduce it very briefly to you in this particular module. Now, parts of a prepositional phrase is what we have to focus on. Now, the preposition is what the first part of a prepositional phrase is the word that begins the actual prepositional phrase. And it also, a prepositional phrase also is made up of the object of the preposition. Is the last word in a prepositional phrase, and it's a noun. So that last word in a prepositional phrase, which is the object, is always going to be a noun. However, this noun is never going to be the subject of a sentence. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail in module number 2, finding subjects and verbs in sentences. Some students have a tendency when they're trying to find the subject of a sentence to say that the object of the preposition is the subject of the sentence. But the object of the preposition, which happens to be a noun, just like a subject is, but the object of the preposition can never be the actual subject of the sentence. It's always going to be the object of the preposition. Now I have some examples here of prepositional phrases in sentences. Let's take a look at the first one. In the young man's apartment, books covered the shelves. Now in module 2, you will learn how to find verbs and subjects in sentences, but I just kind of want to give you a glimpse into that module right now so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about as far as prepositional phrases not being subjects of sentences go. So let's look at this first example. Now we have covered as our verb, right? Now we've already identified our verb as covered. Now to find the subject of the sentence, we have to ask who or what covered. In that case, it's books. Books covered. Therefore, books is the subject of the sentence. Now we do have this prepositional phrase, in the young man's apartment. Now we know it's a prepositional phrase because it begins with a preposition, and the word in is a preposition. And we will be able to identify common prepositions in module number 2, so kind of keep that in the back of your minds. And also, apartment is the object of the preposition, is the noun that comes at the very end of the prepositional phrase. So in the young man's apartment is the entire prepositional phrase. Now you will have some words between the preposition and the object. In this case, the young man's are 3 words that are between the preposition and its object. So don't be alarmed by that. You will have in most cases words that are in between those 2. Okay, now let's look at our second example. Admission to the college is not easy. Is my linking verb. We learned about linking verbs in part number 2 of this module, so we're able to identify is as our verb of the sentence. Admission is, so admission is the subject. Now I have to the college in parentheses because to the college is my prepositional phrase. To is my preposition that begins the phrase. College is my object, which is my noun, that ends the phrase. And I do have the word the between those 2 words, and that's perfectly fine. The boy looked under the rug. Looked is my verb. Boy is my subject. Where did the boy look? Under the rug. Under the rug is my prepositional phrase. Under is my preposition. Rug is my object of the preposition. And again, rug is a noun that's serving as the object of the preposition. And then number 4, the electrician stood on the ladder. Stood is my verb. Electrician is my subject. Where did the electrician stand? On the ladder. On is my preposition that begins the phrase. Ladder is my object, the noun that ends the phrase. Therefore, ladder is my object of the preposition. And again, it just takes practice to be able to identify prepositional phrases and sentences. But keep in mind, and you will learn this in more detail in module number 2. Keep in mind that the prepositional phrase will never have in it the subject or verb of the sentence. Now, your prepositional phrase will have a noun, and subjects are nouns. However, a prepositional phrase will not have the subject of the sentence or the verb of the sentence in it. So please keep that in the back of your minds. It will eliminate a lot of trouble in the future for you in your academic writing. So we just covered prepositions, and again, it takes practice to be able to finesse this thing. But let's move on to our 6th part of speech, which is the last one that this module will cover, and that's the conjunction. Now, a conjunction is a word that joins words or groups of words together, and it shows relationships between other words or groups of words. Now, I have listed here, and you will learn about coordinating conjunctions a little bit later in another module, but I want to be able to give this to you now so you'll be able to identify it in the future. We do have an acronym that might help you remember these 7 coordinating conjunctions, and that acronym is fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So again, to help you remember these 7, just remember the acronym fanboys. Now, the word for is to introduce a reason, and is used to add an idea, nor is used to add an idea when the first clause is a negative, and but is used to contrast two opposing ideas, or is to show a choice, yet is to contrast two opposing ideas also, just like but is, and so is to introduce a result. And again, the 7 coordinating conjunctions, learn these 7 by using the acronym fanboys. It'll be easier for you to remember if you learn the acronym. Let's look at several sentences as examples that use all 7 of these coordinating conjunctions in them. So I have a sentence for each of our conjunctions. My boyfriend gave me an engagement ring for he knew I was breaking up with him. We can actually change that to because he knew I was breaking up with him. So for is used there as my coordinating conjunction to join 2 ideas together. Now our second one is and. Maggie ate ham and cheese. Ham and cheese is being combined here, so I'm using the conjunction and. Neither my brother nor my sister ever went to college. So I'm showing that neither one nor the other one, so I'm using the conjunction nor. For the next one, but I went to the concert, but I didn't have any fun. I did this, however, this didn't happen, and I'm using my conjunction but. Todd should seek professional help, or he will stay depressed. He's either going to do one thing or something else is going to happen, so I'm using my conjunction or to show that contrast. Yet is the next one to show a contrast. Drunk driving is the leading cause of death among teens, yet they still do it. And my last conjunction, so. My mother misses me terribly, so she calls me every day. So again, you have examples of how each of these coordinating conjunctions is used in sentences. And like I mentioned before, it will take a lot of practice for you to be able to finesse these grammar rules. And this was our last part on parts of speech in this module. We ended with the preposition and the conjunction. So at the end of this module, you actually learned about 6 parts of speech: the noun, the pronoun, the verb, the adverb, the conjunction, as well as the preposition. So again, we have to be able to identify these 6 common major parts of speech so that we won't make so many grammatical mistakes when we actually write our word groups and sentences, paragraphs, and essays.